Hello and welcome to this week's Strange Pathways. I'm your host, Scott Mort. I hope you're having a wonderful week. I know I am. I'm feeling a lot better. A little down in the dumps today, but that's okay. A lot better than I was the weeks previously. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed a lot of 1-minute videos, at least up on the YouTube channel. I have a glut of cases that just go nowhere. They're worth a few sentences. They're worth about 1 minute, 1 minute 30, and then done. There's nothing else to be found. So in order to get these cases out there, I have an Instagram up. I have a TikTok up. So now those are going to be available. I know a lot of people were happy to see just a couple of 1-minute videos on the YouTube channel. Some people were upset that there was 1-minute videos on the YouTube channel. The long form podcast every Sunday is not going anywhere. So if you are a fan of the YouTube channel, think of these as little 1-minute things to get you from one Sunday to the next. But like I said, these are not going to replace the long form podcast. These are just things that wouldn't fit into the long form. I can't make these cases. I could make the cases last 10 minutes, but let's face it, they don't need to be 10 minutes long. The great thing is, thanks to the TikTok site, thanks to Instagram, I have gotten over 1,000 more eyes on these cases. And one of these cases that I thought was going nowhere, the Luli Nielsen case, it led to a lead. A gentleman did get a hold of me, said that he was Luli Nielsen's great-grandson. So that was kind of exciting. He's going to get in contact with me a little further down the line. Apparently there's something else. There's something going on with this case that goes a little bit further than anything was reported. So I am super, super excited about that. And I will continue to do these little 1-minute cases. It might be once a day. It might be more than once a day. It might be once every few days. Right now, just sort of testing the waters with them. But so far, I've got to call them a really awesome success. Our first case is going to take us back to November of 1991, Warrington, England, around 2 a.m. Most people enjoy a great night at the movies. I personally am not one of them. I'm more of a homebody. I really don't like going to the movie theater. In fact, the last movie that I saw in theater, in the theater, was the Bumblebee movie. So that shows how far back it was. And I think the movie before that I watched was the Transformers, the one before that. I have a good friend, Josh. You're probably going to hear more about Josh in the future. Josh is a journalist. He's got his own podcast, Hiking the Laurel Highlands. Please go check that podcast out. But Josh and we're good friends, and we've seen every Transformers film in theater. So that's what gets me out to the theaters. But I'm not like most people. Most people do enjoy going out to the theaters. These 3 witnesses, they're coming back from the movies. It's a really heavy rain. They're driving. They're trying to be very, very cautious. They get to a roundabout. And that's whenever they look off in the distance and go, oh no, is there an accident? There's a white Toyota Saloon parked in the middle of the roundabout. I'm not talking on the road of the roundabout, but actually in the center. Think of that little dot of grass. I mean, anything could have happened. They could have broken down, pulled in there. Maybe they've wrecked, and that's where they ended up. These 3 witnesses, they're thinking that this car has been stolen and then abandoned. So they slow that car down. They slow down. They drive around. All three men in the car can see that there's somebody sitting in the car. But their heads are massive. Huge heads. One of these creatures' heads in this Toyota saloon looks like a giant upright raisin. No obvious features at all. And then there's another one. They see his head in profile. It's shaped like the continent Africa. So it's like, standard face in the front, huge head, and then a big protruding dome at the back of the head. Both of these creatures are wearing dark sunglasses. Now remember, this is 2 a.m. They're wearing dark sunglasses. They're staring directly ahead. The witnesses said that these creatures, the skin, it appeared very dark, leathery. Bravely enough, they're kind of going like, well, maybe it's the rain. The rain is hitting down on the glass. It can distort things. Maybe we didn't see what we saw. It's 2 a.m. It's dark. It's raining. So they circle the roundabout twice more. They want to get a really good look at the occupants. And each time they go around, they get more and more convinced that they saw exactly what they saw. With each glance of the occupants of this car, it becomes clearer and clearer to the three men that they are seeing exactly what they thought they saw. Two strange entities. Wearing sunglasses, sitting in a car in the middle of a roundabout. The three men said it didn't look like they were in trouble. Why stop? The witnesses drove off, did not return. So was this just a simple case of mistaken identity? I've seen some odd conditions that humans can be in, but nothing feels quite like this. Maybe I think the closest I can think of is some of the growth that happens with certain port wine birthmarks. Possibly that? Or is it two entities pretending to be human and just doing a spectacularly bad job of it? Maybe these three men glimpsed into another world, another reality. It's so strange. It's one of those brief, short cases that really kind of sticks in my head. I think because the outcomes, the possible explanations, both normal and paranormal, both standard and Fortean, there's so many roads this could go down. These could be aliens, entities, ghosts. Warrington does have a history of haunted buildings. So I mean, these could be ghosts. A glimpse into the future. a simple misidentification, would you have stopped? I don't think I would have been brave enough to go around 2 more times, quite honestly. But would you have stopped? And if you would stop, what's your plan? What would you say? Our next case is going to take us to Homer, Alaska, somewhere between 2013 and 2018. Lisa Merrill lives on a small street surrounded by tall, tall trees. One night she's in her room, she's hanging out with her boyfriend, and she notices these strange movements outside. She looks over to her boyfriend and says, those binoculars you brought, can I look through them? Sure. He hands her the binoculars. She looks through the binoculars towards the trees. And there she sees little men hopping from tree to tree. They seem to be dancing in the trees. Her words. Now, these little men doesn't seem to be concerned about falling. Doesn't even seem concerned with injuring itself, jumping tree to tree. It's just hopping around. A month later, she's noticing more of these creatures. We hear this happening all the time with the paranormal. You notice it. It notices you notice it. And then it begins to seek you out. Lisa is really, really worried that she's losing it. That she's losing her grip on reality. Her boyfriend certainly doesn't believe her. He probably thinks it's a joke at first, and then as the time goes on, he gets more and more concerned for Lisa's state of mind. But then one night, he sees these creatures for himself. On and on and on this goes. So much so that Lisa begins to notice patterns happening. Each tree that these little men hop to, that these little men play about in, they slowly start to die. As if their very presence, their touch, is poisonous to the tree. I'm sure Lisa begins to worry. The same way that you or I would. What if these creatures get brave and touch me? We have those stories about the black-eyed kids and the people that let them in have horrible luck. They suffer from strange maladies. They almost die. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe we're only hearing from the survivors. Maybe the stories that we don't hear about, the more terrifying ones, are the ones where the witnesses didn't even get a chance to tell their story. Or maybe they're too embarrassed to say, oh yeah, I started to bleed out 3 days after I let a child with black eyes into my house. Is this the same type of creature? Its very touch is killing living things. Granted, trees, but a tree is still a living thing. That has to be weighing on Lisa's mind. And in 2018, Lisa and her family decide This is enough. I'm done. And they moved to Kodiak. I would be terrified moving to just Kodiak. I've seen pictures of Kodiak bears. That would terrify me in and of itself. And that's a thing that I know exists. Imagine that. Going to Kodiak to get away from whatever these things are. Lisa returns back to Homer, to where she lived in 2021. The crew of the Discovery Channel, they were shooting an episode of the TV show Aliens in Alaska. The trees. That little patch of forest where these entities played in is dead. The trees, every tree, rotten and black, dead. Lisa said, and I'm quoting her now, "I don't know what they are, but I don't think they're from here. I think they're aliens." These creatures drained the life force out of these forests. I've said before in previous episodes, I think that we're at war with the paranormal. Maybe not the entire paranormal, but I mean, this sounds like war. This sounds like an invasion. Things like the Bridgewater Triangle, Skinwalker Ranch. The phenomena is starting to escape what we thought were the bounds of this phenomena. Things are happening outside of the Bridgewater Triangle. Things are happening outside of the Skinwalker Ranch. We are losing ground to an enemy we know nothing about. We don't know how to fight them. We don't know their weaknesses. We don't know their strengths. We know that they're capable of what seems to be impossible. And it's honestly, think about this. It's getting bad enough that Congress is talking about it. That they're saying the UAPs, growing up what I called UFOs, but UAPs do possess a clear and distinct threat to us. Now, Lisa Merrill, she herself is an artist. And she's drawn some incredibly detailed pictures of these entities. If you want to, come on over to the Strange Pathways Facebook page. I'm going to have pictures up there. Look upon them for yourselves. You might be staring into the face of the enemy. Our last case, well, this may take a little bit of a setup. I like to think that Strange Pathways is a show where you would come to find out about high strangeness cases. This isn't a kindergarten paranormal thing. I'm assuming you know about Roswell. I'm assuming you know about Bigfoot. I'm assuming you know about the Bermuda Triangle. All that stuff that you first learn about whenever you start getting into the paranormal. Now, I'm sure that there's a few people out there, though, listening to this, that are unaware of the Frederick Valentich case. It's pretty popular out there. And there's going to be plenty of YouTube videos, plenty of other podcasts that you can go to get some really in-depth stuff. But just in case, let's go over the broad strokes of this. Frederick Valentich was an Australian pilot. He's deciding that he's going to go over the Bass Strait. This is October 21st, 1978. He's midway into his flight, and he then tells Melbourne Air Traffic Control that he's being followed by an aircraft about 1,000 feet above him. His engine is running roughly. And finally, he says, it's not an aircraft. There's some sounds of scraping metal. And then nothing. Frederick Valentich is never seen again. Or is he? I've been doing research into possible cases of aliens robbing graves. This took me over to a website I just found, inexplicata.blogspot.com. I'm going to link you to this post. And this post is a wealth of information. I've long thought that aliens may be robbing graves to use the corpses to interact with us. The Men in Black sightings, everything that goes on with those, it feels like they're corpses being used. Asian features, a lot of their words, not mine, but a lot of these Men in Black have what are called vaguely Asian features. But a face in rictus, from a couple of these sketches, they don't look Asian to me. They look like a face that's in rigor mortis. They talk about these things, these Men in Black moving stiffly, wires running up through them, odd conversations. Why disguise yourself if you've got a steady supply of decoys? And honestly, if you're coming from another dimension, if you're coming from another planet in another part of this galaxy, I mean, what is it to remote control a couple of corpses? If you're able to traverse the stars, traverse dimensions, then remote controlling a couple of dead humans seems to me like it would be child's play. That's how I came across this. A phrase that the inexplicata.blogspot.com is using is recycled humans. We'll get a little bit more into that. But this case, this was investigated by a Spanish researcher, Manuel Caballal. This is going back to Plaza del Charco, 1990. There's a lot of witnesses to this. There's a young man in this seaport square, Plaza del Charco. This is the Isle of Tenerife in the Canary Islands. There's a young man there, and he's identifying himself as Frederick Valentich. He's even got a passport, the Australian passport, to prove he is who he is. This doesn't happen once. This happens over a number of occasions. And Valentich, he's telling everyone he speaks to that he now belongs to a group of humans who had been recruited by extraterrestrials. The people who were witnesses to this, they're shown pictures of Frederick Valentich from 1978. Remember, this is 1990. And they go, yeah, this is the guy. But he's not older. He looks like he's the same age as these photos. And it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop there. September 22nd, 1973, insurance salesman Virgilio Gomez drives to a business appointment. Now he's driving along and he sees someone waving him down. He slows down. He sees this person a little bit better. This person is in a green uniform, and there are two other people standing about a few dozen feet away. The man in the green uniform looks at him and goes, "Hey, my name's Freddie Miller." Well, Virgilio, he knows Freddie Miller. Freddie Miller drowned 13 years earlier in a boating accident. But Freddie tells him, no, I was rescued. I was rescued by, and this is the words he used, a module known to people as a UFO. Now Gomez, he thinks somebody's playing a prank on him. So he goes, well, what planet do you come from? And Freddie Miller says, I come from Venus. I was rescued on account of my knowledge of radio tech. He also goes, the other boaters, yeah, they're dead. They wouldn't have survived the adaptation process. Gomez takes a closer look. Freddie Miller has this disgusting gray-yellow skin tone. He spoke in a thick, deliberate voice. He was hairless. What does that sound like? That sounds like the Men in Black. Thick, deliberate voice, robotic-like voice, virtually hairless. A lot of reports of Men in Black, they say they have no eyebrows. Now he's saying like Freddie Miller's body was covered by form-fitting green coverall, no zippers, no pockets. Freddie Miller is wearing a large wristwatch. Kind of reminds Gomez of the ones worn by scuba divers. He's got that on the wrist of his left hand. Now, Gomez is then shown a half-hidden vehicle in the woods by the roadside. It's an oval-shaped craft. It's chrome. Looks like an American football. It's windowless. No external seams. No rivets. I wish I could tell you how this ends. But that's all I could find. So is this happening? Are UFO occupants, whatever they are, the overlords of the UFO, if I can rip off an old 1970s documentary title, are the overlords of the UFO recycling us? Are they using us to communicate with us? Why make a disguise whenever there are plenty of decoys around? It's a terrifying thought that maybe, just maybe, that person you're walking beside on the street He gives off the air of something not normal. Maybe he's been recycled. That person behaving strangely. We've all seen people behaving very, very strangely. Maybe they've been recycled. Maybe we are under constant surveillance. I would argue it's more likely that they're keeping us under constant surveillance than they're just letting us go on our own. Thank you once again for joining us this week on Strange Pathways. Please, if you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do so at strangepathwaysmail@gmail.com. Our TikTok is at Strange Pathways Podcast, and the Instagram is also at Strange Pathways Podcast. Head over to our Facebook page. We're going to have a few images posted over there dealing with the cases that we spoke about today. Thank you so much for joining us again this week. Take care of yourselves and each other.